Grandmothers are essential in the development of their grandchildren. This development is all the more reinforced by a special bond which binds the child to the grandmother. Paradoxically, the link is growing nowadays because times have definitely changed. The pace of life seems more hectic than ever, and this inevitably affects the family. Yet there are many reasons why grandmothers are indispensable in the lives of their grandchildren. You remember, the balm in the heart, the beautiful moments shared with your grandmothers, and it is far from strange that you feel so good by their side. Indeed, their benevolent presence brings us many advantages. Let's review them. The presence of a grandmother is a source of special moments. The important role of grandmothers in the development of grandchildren is enhanced by the flexibility that distinguishes them from parents. Indeed, she is much more present since she is no longer in active life. And that's one of the reasons kids spend some weekends and vacations at home. Thus, the relationship that is woven between grandmothers and their grandchildren often takes place in a context of relaxation and leisure. In more meaningful words, children are disconnected from their daily lives and feel like they are in a haven. Grandmothers have extensive parenting experience. Compared to parents, she has more perspective and is better able to act well in difficult or conflictual situations. Since they are not meant to have the role of parent, they do not have to be bossy or judgmental. As a result, they are generally more inclined to be tolerant than parents. It's no wonder that as children we liked spending more time with them. The relationship between grandparents and their grandchildren is unique. The habit established in the child and grandmother relationship becomes conducive to exceptional moments. No matter if the time spent is spent during an activity or just at home, the child gains memories that will give him balm in the heart later. Curious children learn life lessons from their valuable experiences. Even as the child grows up and a rift widens with her grandmother as her interests shift elsewhere, she remains present. His words resound with benevolence and his reassuring tone is matched only by his wish, that of preserving the family union. The key role of grandmothers in families. Given the very different conditions of 17th, 18th and 19th century, it is still different today. At the time, the closeness of the girl and her mother gave her the opportunity to pass on advice on how to raise a child. However, access to medicine is now easier, which makes the influence of the grandmother less important but no less essential. And this, full of elements, remind us every day. For good reason, grandmothers contribute to the education of the child. Thus, many new mothers ask their mothers to help them during the first weeks of the birth of a child. When grandmothers help their daughters during the days following the birth of a baby, they can rest while receiving quality support. In cases where parents cannot resort to the help of childminders, the grandparents will be more than happy to babysit their children. Small detail, and not least, keeping their grandchildren, would also allow the grandparents to live longer. Two scientific research shows that grandmothers play a key role in families. They could promote the birth rate and survival of children. Our kitties love their grannies, and that's normal. These play an important role in their development, especially on the emotional side. Two studies published in February 2019 in the journal Current Biology show that they may well have an even more essential task for families. While we celebrated the grannies this Sunday, March 3rd for their birthday, we unveil the results to you. Grandmothers play a role in child survival. The first study was carried out by researchers at the University of Turku, Finland. They studied data from a local register, listing parishioners born between 1731 and 1895, or more than about 5,815 children. They found that in these families, the younger and healthier the grandmother, the higher the chances of survival of her children's offspring at an early age. Scientists have in fact noticed that, if grandmothers lived near their grandchildren and were between 50 and 75 years old, they had a 30% more chance of survival between 2 and 5 years, than those who did not have a granny. The proximity of grandmothers increases the birth rate. The second research was carried out by two Canadian universities, that of Sherbrooke and that of Montreal. This one was interested in the interest of the proximity of the grandmother with her children and her grandchildren. To do this, the researchers studied data from the Register of the Population of Old Quebec, RPQA, which collected information on 3,382 grandmothers and 56,767 grandchildren who lived between 1608 and 1799. They then discovered that the further the maternal grandmothers lived away from their daughter, the fewer children she produced. They even went even further, and claimed that the number of children per woman decreased on average by 0.5 for every 100 kilometers between them and their mother. For example, if a woman lived 300 kilometers from her mother, she had one child less than one who lived only 100 kilometers from her. The essential role of grandmothers in families. These studies are based on figures collected between the 17th and 19th centuries. They are therefore dated, and living conditions were very different from today. At the time, the tips for raising children often transmitted from mother to daughter, which may perhaps explain why the proximity of grannies helped the survival of children. Today it is much easier to access medicine, so this role is arguably less important. However, our ancestors remain essential. They can help in the education of the child, and many new mothers ask their mothers to come and help them during the weeks following the birth of their baby, in order to rest and have support. It is therefore very likely that if in a few centuries, scientists take an interest again in their role for families, they will discover that they still contribute a lot. For example, parents who work and whose income is low or the hours do not correspond to those of nurseries or childminders, regularly ask grandparents to keep their offspring. Knowing that there is someone nearby to help them out can therefore encourage them to have children.